Aloha, everyone. I'm your host, Christina Laney Mitri, and welcome to Smart Living Hawaii's podcast, where we discuss smart homes and technology, sustainability, healthy lifestyles, and smart business. Today, we'll continue our Sustainable Leaders series and have a talk story with David Sands, who has been building homes with bamboo for over 25 years. And through his innovative spirit, it has led him down paths unchartered. Therefore, always needing to be the first in what he has accomplished and provide a product and service we also desperately need to adopt, not only here in Hawaii, but across the world. David has solutions to problems we face with climate change, affordable housing, deforestation, carbon sequestration, and more. And one word to put that all together is bamboo. So, aloha, David.
Aloha, Christina. Thank you. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. We are doing a Zoom and we will definitely be stripping the audio for the podcast and maybe you might even use the video on our YouTube. But anyhow, before we begin, a little bit about David. He is an architect. He's a lead accredited professional who co-founded Bamboo Living and created the first certified and permitted bamboo homes in the world. He also founded another really cool company called Rizome that grows bamboo, makes bamboo lumber while sequestering carbon at rates 10 times faster than trees do. Very excited to share these innovative concepts with you all, and let's just dive right in. So,
Wonderful.
let's start with your background, David. Maybe growing up and what you'd like to share with our listeners, because I do know you live on the Big Island, but maybe
Right.
back it up a little and share with us.
Sure, you bet. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Florida and actually was playing in with bamboo since I was little, like 6 or something like that. And the neighbors had a bamboo grove on a lake. We ended up making a raft out of it, and then in Boy Scouts making bridges and towers and suspension bridges and things like that. So it was really uh, played a part in my early life, and then I had no idea it was going to play such a big part later in my life, but it was a good start.
Awesome. So, where did you grow up?
Yeah, it was in Winter Haven, Central Florida. It was a small town when I grew up, and now it's a suburb of Disney World. It's
Oh, okay.
everything is grown up around it.
And I always like to ask this, but what do you do for fun among, I know you've got a lot of things on your plate, but is there
Sure.
anything that David does for fun besides
Uh,
bamboo?
well, sure. I love swimming, so I don't hardly pass a day without getting in the ocean, and actually doing some real swimming for exercise as well. And then I've really had a lifetime of yoga practice, so I do yoga every day as well, and I love it. It really feeds me in very significant ways.
Awesome. And what brought you to the Big Island, I guess? When did you move there?
Sure. As I moved here about a decade ago, but I've been in Hawaii since 1988. I have a brother who lives on Maui, wonderful person. He's a doc with Kaiser. He was responsible for protecting the last big wild beach on Maui, McKenna.
Oh, wow.
Worked on that for years. And so I came out to visit, and that's what happened.
Awesome. So you're kind of commuting back and forth from was it the Big Island and Asia pretty much in general?
Right. Most of my time's here on the Big Island, but we're working in Asia. So I was there in Vietnam for the Bamboo Living Company. We've been there 26 years.
Oh, wow.
And then in the Philippines for the last few years, working with the Rizome Company.
So let's get into bamboo. So
Sure.
um, it's a really remarkable, I mean, I think a lot of us see it now. There's so many things being made with it. I mean, I have a comforter that is made from bamboo, right? And then I actually have, it's actually really soft, and I don't know how they make these things out of bamboo, but there's so many products that are made out of bamboo. Things that seem like plastic is made out of bamboo these days. But building a house seems like something that would make sense, but how does it work? So maybe you can start with
Sure, you
your
bet.
bamboo living and give us
Sure,
a rundown on bamboo and building a house with it.
you bet. That sounds great. So there's about 1,500 species of bamboo, and there's maybe a couple dozen that are good for construction. They are for the bamboo living company, we use a bamboo called bamboo Stachya. It's very thick walled. It's about the size of a 4x4 and phenomenally strong. When we had it tested for the building code, a 1 square inch on average would hold up 14,000 pounds, 7 tons before failure. So it's a phenomenally strong material. And in fact, we've had our bamboo living houses go through multiple category fives now. Uh,
Just
uh,
because they're already been built and they haven't
yeah,
been hurricanes.
exactly. Yeah, we've got a project right on the ocean in Rarotonga that's been through 3 category 5 hurricanes, and then another project in St. Croix with about 4 buildings that's been through a category 5 with 200-mile-an-hour winds. So, the buildings have done phenomenally well.
And then around those areas, I'm assuming there are regular homes built, and how do
That's
those?
right. Yeah, exactly. So sadly, in the biggest of the storms in Rarotonga, this project's right on the beach. And so much of the conventional construction up and down the beach was completely destroyed. And the banker for this project sent us photos after the storm because he was so impressed that they had weathered the storm. And even to the point where the storm surge was so big that it threw a large coral boulder through a sliding glass door, and the building was still fine. So,
Oh,
and I mean, it's with a
that's
wave hitting it, and you know,
that's awesome.
yeah,
So, with, I guess if you can give us, I know on your website it was some very helpful information on, I guess, bamboo versus lumber from regular wood.
sure.
Maybe you can talk about some of the pros that bamboo has that makes it, I would say, superior.
Sure, sure. Just on the structural side, um, the uh, the the wood used out here in Hawaii, Douglas fir from the Northwest, it's what they call the MOE, which is the resistance to deflection, is between 1.4 and 1.7. With the bamboo, it's up at 3.3. So it's really more than twice as rigid in terms of resistance to deflection. And at the same time, it can still, it's not brittle like concrete. Uh, what's interesting with a concrete building, sadly, as we saw in Florida, is failure's catastrophic because the concrete shatters. I was in India at the India Institute of Technologies, and they were doing after initial failure. So here for the building code, we test to initial failure and then we develop working stresses with large margins of safety. What they were interested in was, well, what happens after that initial failure? And what was fascinating is the bamboo would have these kind of terracing where it would have some level of breakage or cracking, and then you could still keep applying load to it. And so it just had this step down performance that would make what happened in Miami impossible. So the building would have stayed up even though there might have been partial failures.
Wow.
And boy, it chokes me up talking about it. So it's a, and it's a phenomenally, on a strength to weight ratio, it's actually 2.5 times as strong as steel. So steel's about twice as strong as the bamboo on a cross-sectional area, but the steel's about 5 times as heavy. So for that same cross-sectional area. So if you're looking at the weight of a structure, which is an important piece, again, concrete, most of the work that a concrete is doing in a multi-story concrete building is holding up the concrete because the concrete's so heavy. So the ability to hold up the live loads of people and against wind loads and hurricanes and earthquakes and that sort of thing, that the massive weight of the concrete is actually problematic in certain ways. In that, again, basically when you have a seismic event, the ground moves out from under the building. So the foundation shifts to the side and the building's got to catch up with its foundation. So it's got to pull itself over the foundation. And that the force needed to do that is dependent on the weight of the actual building itself. So being able to build with lighter weight materials like wood and bamboo make a huge difference in terms of the ability to resist seismic events as
And
well.
it's more bending, right? Like, I mean, just really,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
think about it. You're like always hearing the trees go back and forth, but they're not trees. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's designed to handle big, trees and bamboo are designed to handle big wind loads. That's what they're doing all the time. Is there, that big leaf mass up there, those are basically solar collectors. And so it's sticking up all these massive amount of solar collectors and then trying to, resist the wind knocking the whole tree down or the bamboo.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets its strength.
And I didn't know this about termites, though. That's a big
Oh yeah,
in Hawaii.
sure. Yeah. So really, when we tested, we had to do we did the National Building Code standard approval through ICC, the people that write the building code for 90% of jurisdictions in the U.S., including Hawaii. And when we also needed to understand its resistance to insects. So we worked with the entomology labs at UH in Manoa, and actually the treated bamboo, we treat it with borates, which is the like boric acid, like the eye wash and that sort of thing. It's it's the what's typically used for lumber nowadays because it's the least most
Toxic.
environmental of the different treatments. Yeah, least toxicity. In fact, what's interesting is I was working on a project down in Costa Rica, and we went to see a bamboo plantation where they were treating the bamboo right there, and then they were using what they call solubor, which is an agricultural amendment, because boron is a trace mineral. So once they treated the bamboo and it was the boron mixture was too diluted, they would just dilute it further and use it as an amendment to help with the growth of the bamboo,
Oh, wow.
which was pretty neat. Yeah. But getting back to the entomology tests is the performance with the termites was 100% mortality. So they just could not eat the bamboo and survive. And so that was really nice to see.
Well, I
And
guess in a sense, which I guess we didn't know this either, or a lot of people probably don't know this, but bamboo is really a grass, like you were saying,
that's correct.
a
Yeah.
tree, and I mean, maybe termites need that wood. Right? It's not wood.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's their first choice, but certainly after it's been treated, they can't even eat it at all, without, uh, it
That's
doing them
cool.
in. Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe we can explain the process of carbon sequestration because I didn't know this either. There's so much that I learned from you when we first chatted that I
Sure.
think it's just something that anybody listens in, they're going to learn so much on this one. But because it's grass and because it's not a tree, and how you cut it like you're cutting your lawn, right? Maybe you can explain that. What
Exactly.
you could do
Sure.
to
Sure. Yeah, basically, giant bamboo. If you go to, if you Google it, the fastest growing plant in the world is a giant bamboo, and it grows 2 to 3 feet a day. Um, yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. They call them bamboo shoots for a reason because they'll get to 100 to 120 feet tall in just a couple of months.
That's
And yeah, it's wild to see it happen. And and then the plant itself is a grass, so it's basically sending up new shoots every year, every growing season. So those the mature bamboo shoots can be cut, and the plant will just keep sending up new shoots. So the unlike trees, when you harvest them, you're typically killing the tree. When you harvest the bamboo, you're actually stimulating the growth for new, bamboo shoots because you're opening up the sun space, the available sunlight for the new bamboo shoots.
right.
And so we're able to, depending on the species, harvest between 20 and 33% of the clump, the plant, every year. And that's for the 60 to 100-year life of the plant. So it's a pretty phenomenal thing.
And so I forgot how many years is it? About 3 years, or that you're
That's
growing?
right. Yeah. So it's 3 to 5 years, depending on the species. For the bamboo living poles, it's 3 years. For the rhizome poles, it's 4 to 5 years. And what it's doing during those, so it basically shoots up. It reaches full height in 2 to 3 months, and then over the next couple of years, it's putting out those solar collectors. It's branching and growing leaves, and that is adding mass and also wind resistance. So it's got to build structure to hold those that leaf mass up in the air.
What is the
And
part that actually does the carbon sequestration in the
sure, yeah.
leaves?
So what happens is that the all of the bamboo is pretty much 50% carbon. So the every bamboo pole, by dry weight, it's about 50% carbon. The same thing with the root system, the rhizome, it's about 50% carbon. So what happened for me was I saw an article back in '09 about the rates of uh, uh, you know amount of CO2 going in the atmosphere from human activity every year. At that point, it was about 30 billion tons. And I had recently read some studies about the CO2 in a bamboo plant, or the carbon in a bamboo plant. So I just did some back of napkin calculations of, I wonder if we could do a large scale, climate mitigation project using bamboo, where we would basically draw down that CO2, turn it into bamboo, and then turn that bamboo into long-term durable products. I wrote wrote that up, and I submitted it to the World Bamboo Congress, which was meeting that year in Bangkok, to do a paper and a presentation. And a few weeks ahead of the conference, the top researcher in the world, Walter Lise, he's a professor from Germany, he submitted a paper of why bamboo would not work for carbon sequestration. And I was like, uh-oh. And but then I read his paper and I thought, oh, this is perfect. I just have to address every issue that Walter has raised, because the pieces were is that bamboo at that time was mostly being used to make, chopsticks and little things that don't have a very long life.
Mm,
And also, if you just plant bamboo in the wild and you never harvest it, it's a phenomenal carbon drawdown for the first maybe 20 years. But after that, you need to be harvesting it, because it'll, once the canopy closes so that there's no more, open sunlight space coming in, it's kind of hits more of a steady state where the
mm.
bamboo poles rot, new ones grow in, but it's not this dramatic
Because there's
you
no
know,
sunlight coming in to get it
exactly,
grown.
exactly, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I wrote that up and sent it to Walter, and he said, "Yeah, that's a great plan. Meet me ahead of the conference, and I'll help you work out the details." So ended up presenting it, and I kept thinking, well, somebody's going to pick this up and do something about it because it's so obvious. But
But
that
what
didn't.
year was that you did that?
That was '09.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So after a year or so, I thought, I think that person may be me. You know. So, we put together a team and really started working on this to, figure out, where would we do it? How would we do it? What kind of scale would we need to do it in to have a major impact? We're at the point now where we, planted 1,000 acres, even in the middle of COVID in the Philippines, working with our partners there, the two of the indigenous tribes, a couple of municipalities, and some other landowners. And we're in the process of this coming season of more than doubling that planting, and then, again, like a geometric growth over the next couple of years. And so I'm very excited about where that's going. And yeah, so
that was a really interesting story when you explained about the indigenous partners that you guys have. Could you explain that a little bit more? How that came
sure,
about? Just
sure. So
because,
what has happened on the island where we're working um, is the island was deforested a generation or more ago of all its, basically all its trees. It had a lot of Luan mahogany, other, hardwoods, and it was, cut and sold. And unfortunately, what happened was is that when the forest was cut, the climate got drier, and because the trees transpire and keep moisture in the air, so they increase the humidity in the microclimate. So that wasn't happening. So they were getting these drier dry seasons, and an aggressive grass came in where the trees had been, and every dry season, then they were getting these wildfires
wow.
that would run through the brush and kill all the little trees. So the native hardwoods were not repropagating. So
Mhm.
now they've got these, vast mountain slopes and river gulches that are just grass. And the problem was is that's has sped up the rate of runoff. So they were getting increased flooding downstream. They lost, in the last big flood, 2,000 people died because of flooding. So the Red Cross has been planting, since the bamboo is the only thing that could survive the fire, they started planting the, the bamboo for flood mitigation. And so then we have come in and we've said, well, yes, and so we want to plant it for slope stabilization, slow down again the rate of runoff, planting along the edge of agricultural fields to reduce, fertilizer and pesticides getting into the streams.
And
The
wind,
bamboo,
right? It's definitely helps with the wind.
exactly, and it makes an incredible windbreak. And the bamboo doesn't need any of the agricultural amendments. We do a little fertilizer the first 2 years until it's kind of out competed the grass.
Mhm.
And once it's above the height of the grass, then it's on its own, and it can, it'll build a canopy and shade out the grass and let us later interplant the native hardwoods again.
Are
Because we
these
use only
are you using water, or is it just kind of off of the land, like, or the rainfall? Are you having
it's really just the rainfall. There's when they put the plant in the ground, it gets watered, but these are in, some of them in relatively remote locations. So the, the plant's really on its own.
Mhm.
But it's it's a hardy plant. It's and
Well, that's what we want to see, right? Because I think just when you start thinking about the possibilities and in the hurdles that we face here in Hawaii, one is water rights and things like that. So I
Sure,
mean, if
absolutely.
we don't
Yeah.
have water, but it's something that can just, pull from when it comes from the rain up and, down, and that's all you need, then that's a great harvest.
Yeah, it is. It is. The one thing is that the bamboo, a lot of the species are drought tolerant, but if it gets too dry, they'll drop their leaves and stop growing. So you lose the productivity. So ideally, here in Hawaii, we want to plant in areas where there's enough just natural rainfall to that you don't need to augment with irrigation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of the old sugarcane land. Some of it was irrigated, but some of it you really didn't. Like the Hamakua Coast and the uh, um, the on the North Shore of Maui, and there's just a lot of areas where uh, the bamboo would grow really well.
Awesome.
A lot of the places where pineapple was being grown, where I was seeing that the bamboo would do as well.
Cool. So let's see. We Could you maybe give a little bit more of a detailed description of your bamboo living, like the homes and stuff? Because
Sure,
yeah, I mean,
you
everybody can
bet.
go online to, I believe it's www.bambooliving.com,
That's it. Yeah.
and you can kind of check out all the different options that they have, and you've kind of created. Do you customize, or you just go with the ones that you already have?
We do. We're always making new models and doing custom projects. But we've been at this for 26 years, so we've got a lot of models
Mhm.
and to choose from. And so, uh, yeah, so really what I say is when you walk into one of the bamboo living houses, it's like being inside a piece of furniture. These are beautifully crafted with, the joinery with the bamboo is phenomenal. And I can't give enough, kudos to, our team in Vietnam that's doing the carpentry with it. They're artists of the highest degree. And then these gorgeous open ceilings. So we'll use bamboo trusses and bamboo purlin panels, bamboo rafters, and then split bamboo for the ceiling surfaces and weavings, and so they're quite beautiful. And there's just a special quality to being inside of them that's very different from a drywall
Mhm.
building. Yeah.
So, what do you use for walls? Are you just paneling them all the way across, or is it
Uh,
actually?
yeah, so we're doing a number of different things. Is in areas where the that are not uh,
Structural or whatnot?
well, no, all the bamboo is structural. It's more the where the climate is mild. So, like in Lahaina on Maui, you would want to have an insulated wall because you're going to probably have at least during the summer, some days where it's hot. It's called the
Yes.
place of the hot sun. So, yeah. um, but in a lot of areas, we're able to just with deep eaves and thermal, like having cupolas or gable vents, being able to have natural ventilation and natural cooling just for the buildings themselves. And so the walls are really like single wall construction, where there's a bamboo frame that's like a post and beam frame, and then there is a siding material that's actually protecting the building from the weather. And then in the uh, areas where uh, it's either very hot or very cold, then the walls, and that's really what got me started on the Rizome company, is developing engineered bamboo lumber. So the bamboo living houses, we use the bamboo in its natural round shape. For Rhizome, we're actually turning it into bamboo lumber, bamboo
It's
boards that are,
an alternative to what everybody uses today.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
And with the pricing, because I was looking, you do have online the pricing for these kits because they are kits, and then
Right.
how how do you go about putting them together?
Sure. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
what's
it's not like
amazing.
IKEA or anything. 'Cause-
No, it's not. Yeah, yeah. Well, what's amazing is we actually build it in our facility in Vietnam. So we've actually built the whole entire building under roof, and then we disassemble it, and it's all panelized and goes into a container, and then gets directly shipped to the building site. And so we built in the Caribbean and the South Pacific and Central America and quite a lot here in Hawaii. When it arrives on the building site, typically we time it so that the foundation is already ready. You know, either the slab's been poured or the floor's been framed, and the building arrives from us, building package, and then it's assembled in just a few days. I mean, it's phenomenal. We had clients on the North Shore of Oahu, and the kids go away to school and they come back and their whole bedrooms are all, built and under roof, and they can walk
So
in
who
and
does it? Is there
like,
somebody here on, like, I'm on Oahu. I know you're on the Big Island. Do you
sure.
have people on every island that?
Yeah, we do. We do. Again, we've been at this for 26 years, so we've got projects on all the islands and builders on all the islands that have done, multiple projects. Some of the builders have done, 50 or 60 of these over the years. So they've really got
Hang of it.
got the hang of it.
So the pricing, what what are we talking about? I guess if you
Sure.
could just
Yeah.
tell everybody over.
Sure. So with the bamboo living homes, we are really kind of at par with nice construction in Hawaii. Um, if you're buying like one of the HPM or Hansador kits, those traditionally have been less expensive than we can build for, but not by much. What's interesting is lumber this last year kind of went through the roof. There was a 500%, almost 500% increase, and so all of a sudden we look incredibly affordable.
So
Um,
it hasn't affected you guys.
no, it is not. Yeah, yeah, it
So
has
you
not.
guys are pretty much still around that same price point.
Yeah, yeah, our price point has not changed. So yeah.
And so I don't know, let's just throw out what's a pretty typical size home square footage wise that
Sure. Yeah, we do a number of like 1,000 square foot, uh, 1,500, 2,000 square foot, something like that.
you do
I would say,
ADUs.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, we can totally do ADUs. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I know the
yeah.
style does not match the house that I have in Pearl City, but it would be pretty cool if there was a bamboo shack because we're like we
What?
could do a 2 bedroom ADU about
Well,
800 square feet. I'm like, maybe I should look into this. Even though it doesn't match the house.
well, you know what you might want to do is there's a couple that did exactly that. They had a house that was in the family for several generations, and in the back they did a guest house and did it with us in bamboo, and it is adorable. And they're open to having tours there. So just reach out and I'll arrange something
Oh,
for you
it's
to go by
definitely
and
love to go
see
check
it.
out a
Yeah,
couple on
yeah,
Oahu. That'd be pretty cool.
yeah.
So I guess just throwing out something that's maybe I think ADUs here in Hawaii are a very big hot commodity right now. I would
Sure.
say something that's either maybe 500, 600 to 800 square feet, depending
Mm-hmm.
on their lot size, because of how we can now do ADUs here. Depending on if you have over a certain amount of land, then you can do up to 800. So let's say someone wanted to do 800 square foot 2 bedroom place, and I
Mm-hmm.
would think single level, right? Do you do
Yeah.
2 levels as
Yeah,
well?
we do two levels as well. Most of the houses we do are single level, but we have done two levels. Yeah.
And how much
And
would something like that probably run
I,
you? Because I know the kit costs something, but I have no
yeah,
idea how much it costs to ship it here.
sure. Well, I think everything, including our building, the builders said they've been building for, 250 to 350 a square foot, depending on the level of finishes and all of that. Um, but that's including us, that's including shipping, that's, basically just to have, to do a whole project. So that gives you some idea about it. And then, of course, the, the typically the larger the house, the lower the square foot price is, because it's the bathrooms and kitchens that are the most expensive parts of the house. And even the smallest houses have both of those in them.
Yeah. So just to see how things are for the permitting and everything, do you have specific like pre-permitted plans that are already like established, and then because they were already permitted, it's a lot easier to go through the process of getting your permit? Because I know that's been a hang up and a hold up here.
Sure, right. And we're actually in that process. Is we've really been building to suit clients, but we're being proactive right now. And we just designed it's an adorable, it's got a very steep Polynesian style roof, with a second floor loft and dormers and a walkout deck, and then a big covered lanai along one side. And it's 16 by 24. So it's 384 square feet on the floor, the first floor, plus the outside lanai is, I think, another 128 square feet. And then the loft inside is another, maybe 10, maybe 200 square feet max. I think more like 150. So it can be an office or a second bedroom, you know, that sort of thing.
So it's probably only like 500 square feet total then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
it's totally modular. So we're going to be getting it permitted exactly as it is with that footprint, but we're designing it in a way that you could make it larger just by adding additional panels and trusses,
Now,
so it
do you
could get
take
longer.
these like models and then go to the different counties? Because I know every county you got.
Right. Yeah, it does. It has to be, each county has their own approval process. So yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Um, I know I'm super interested in all this kind of stuff because I'm in real estate, and everybody's
Sure.
always asking about, especially ADUs and how they could add a in-law suite or whatnot to their property. So this is very helpful information,
Well,
and I
thank
know
you.
that a
It's
lot of
such a
people
pleasure. Yeah,
would
to
be
share
super
it.
interested. I did work with a company that's no longer here because at the time it was a little bit on the higher end price point than what I think ADUs were people were wanting to spend. Maybe now it may
Sure.
be a hot commodity, but they decided to put their efforts into other things. So I keep on getting a lot of contacts and calls in regards to ADUs. So
Oh, okay,
it'd be very
sure.
helpful.
Yeah, well, we could send out our, little kind of advanced thing of this is what we're going to be doing. And yeah, once we're just doing the prototype at the factory right now this week. And so, what I can do is send you some photos and a rendering, and you can get a sense of what it's like. But in terms of, it's one of the most charming houses I've designed, you know.
Cool. I
Yeah.
think to me it would look so cute. I mean, if you had a property that allowed for a lot of these little, you know, bungalows, they almost look like little bungalows. Like if you
Yeah.
took the
Yeah.
bamboo rattan furniture and then created, it's like the Hawaii version of a log cabin.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You feel like you just landed in the South Pacific, which you have, or,
Now,
in the
are you gonna
Pacific, not
start
so. Yeah.
integrating the rhizome type of build with this bamboo.
Exactly, exactly.
You know,
So
start
for in
looking
terms
at
of
people.
insulated walls and wood foundations, we'd be able to use the rhizome bamboo lumber instead. So yeah, it's still for adventurous clients, it can be done fairly next year. For folks that to get actually finish the National Building Code standard, that's going to take probably between 2 years and 2.5 from where we are right now to finish that process. But there's a way, excuse me, to get approval for a one-off project. So if there's a client that says, hey, I'm willing to, you know, go through the Board of Code Appeal process and, yeah, be the first kind of adventurer with this, that would be great.
Well, I'm gonna have to talk to one of my contractors who they just built Energy Star and only that type of quality of kind of
Wonderful.
LEED certified, loves to do platinum kind of stuff. Which, by the way, can you mention that as well in regards to your Bamboo Living product? It is LEED.
Sure. Yeah. So we've done a lead project over on Molokai, and we're, it's really any of our houses can be designed to meet the lead requirements. It's
That's
really about the doing the cavity wall with the insulation. So to get the what would I say, um, the high R value into the walls and ceiling.
How would you compare pricing for the rhizome like lumber in regards to in comparison to regular lumber that we're using today in
Well,
the
I can,
future? What do you think?
yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I can tell you, we did our cost analysis last year before starting the project in the Philippines. And uh, we felt like that this next year, once we're in production there, that we would be competitive with lumber prices. Um, but since that happened, lumber prices went through the roof. So they've, more than 400% increase this last year. It's dropped back down, so it's probably around 200%. But it just means that the bamboo, once we're, in production, will be really cost competitive. It
That's
should
awesome.
be eventually the most affordable way to build anything.
And that's the goal, right? Because then we
Exactly.
can use
Yeah.
it for affordable housing. I mean, that's what I'd like to see
Absolutely. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Hawaii is
Yeah.
affordable housing builds with this. And I think if we could put a project together with this as almost like a prototype and find a way
Absolutely.
move things forward with like the city per se, then it just and it speaks for itself, and then it's assisting. And I mean, that would be
Oh,
the goal.
yeah.
That would be like
Yeah, I would love that because that would help us get some momentum for doing. Our uh, manufacturing expert. He used to run the largest or one of the largest plywood mills in the world, and he was actually brought out to Hawaii to look at the eucalyptus on the Big Island, and so he knew a lot about the economics of doing a wood-based product out here, and and he said the eucalyptus didn't work, but the bamboo would. So the opportunity for us is to do a large-scale carbon drawdown project for the state of Hawaii, and at the same time create an industry here where all those containers that bring goods to Hawaii that go back empty, they could be going back full of building materials for the U.S.
yeah. Well, for us first, please.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
This
But
is
in terms of being able to build an industry here, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that would be super cool. Now, let me see. I did want to. So the rhizome product that you have is probably maybe 2 or 3 years out from actually being able to like get a hold of. Is that correct?
No, it'll be available at the end of this year.
Oh, wow.
It's just that the building code approval takes, once we're able to make the material, then the testing starts, and that's ends up being about 18 to 24 months to get, the all the testing done and the uh, uh, reports approved to where you can actually go to the building department and get a regular building permit. But prior to that, like I said, you can get through the Board of Code Appeal on some of the islands, and through working with the building officials on some of the other islands. So there's ways to actually make it happen even sooner.
Is the lumber like actual strips like you would have if you had bamboo like flooring, or is it like you're making some kind of mixture that's like a
Yeah, there's actually both. Is the bamboo we're using is a giant bamboo, so it gets 10-inch diameters at the base, and for the first 30 something feet, we're making a dimensional product that's like a laminated beam basically. For the upper part of the bamboo, and these things get 100 feet tall, so we're using that in another product where it's basically a crushed product, and so then we're able to increase our utilization and make the economics work, and also get another beautiful product.
so that what is that mixture made with, or is it just like
Yeah, so what it is it's the
Yeah.
material, it's called strand woven. It's not really woven, but it's strands of bamboo that have been crushed and then glued together under pressure. And so it makes a very sturdy board. They currently use it for making these what they call road mats that they drive heavy machinery over, because it's so dense. So it's just, it's a very kind of interesting other product that we'll be able to make out of it.
cool. Let's see. For the carbon sequestration, I know that you had some places in mind that you're working on. So the first one that you're really pushing for is the one in the Philippines, right?
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
that hasn't
Yeah.
been done yet either, right? It's not fully.
It's in process. So what we've done the first number of steps. So we've gotten um, a methodology approved. We're working with one of the large voluntary carbon credit brokers to put large scale projects together. And we're going to be on what they call the carbon registry, either by the end of the year or early next year.
Wow.
And that's a major step in the process. There's still a few more other ones that we're working on concurrently, but the goal is to be have a large scale project in the works. Actually we've already started it because we planted that 1,000 acres, and the next level would be planting about 22,000 acres. So it's just kind of orders of magnitude increases.
So I don't know the details on carbon offsetting and everything, but when I guess could you explain that a little bit more for some of the
Sure. So what they're looking for is, there's 3 or 4 pieces to the puzzle. So a carbon credit program really has a 30-year life to it, but there's really the first 10 years are when what the carbon that's being purchased is related to those first 10 years. So it's really the growth of the material over a decade, and that is again the piece for us is getting as much of it in the ground as we can as quickly as possible, because it does grow so fast and the growth is geometric. So whereas you're not seeing much of anything the first year, you're seeing a little bit the second year, third year you all of a sudden you're getting these big shoots that are running up 60 feet. Fourth year they're up at 100 feet, and then you're, rolling.
So
So
the carbon credits, I guess, for those of you who don't know, it would be perhaps a company in certain states that require that company to purchase carbon credits in order to offset their carbon, I guess, footprint.
yeah, there's some of both of that. In Europe, there are requirements for companies to meet. It's called the CDM programs. Where we're focused on is the voluntary market, where companies are choosing and individuals are choosing to offset their, the CO2 that their company or themselves is producing because of plane flights, driving cars, heating, water, all of the things that can use energy.
Mhm.
And so until we get to a fully sustainable, all 100% renewable, uh, uh, energy generation, we need to be,
Like,
coming up with offsets for that. The other thing is, even once we hit 100% renewables, we still need to get all the CO2, the extra CO2 that we put into the atmosphere over the last couple of centuries out, and it's quite a lot, that the Elon Musk just put down $100 million for an X Prize for somebody to figure out how to get 10 billion tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere a year by 2050, because it's critical to us to do that, to not have the climate go completely berserk.
so what was how much is you're proposing to hopefully do?
Yeah, so we're looking at getting that done, that first 10 gigatons, the 10 billion tons by 2050. The fascinating thing about, yeah, I mean, it's about 2 million acres of bamboo planted over that next 30 years.
So
And
Elon's
so,
gonna write you a check.
yeah, right. Yeah, so we actually are submitting, a proposal for the X Prize, because we really feel like we do have a good, one of the good solutions.
That's
We
cool.
need, yeah, yeah. And the fascinating thing about our solution is, once you hit that, uh, 10 billion threshold, you're actually going to continue. I've got to finish the modeling for that, but it's it's like it's again a geometric growth while the plants are maturing.
Mhm.
And once they mature, then for the rest of the 60 to 100-year life of the plant, you're getting that level of drawdown as long as you're harvesting it and using the material. And what's fascinating is, by using the material, you're offsetting the clear cutting of forests at a
Yep.
1 to 10 ratio. So, 1 million acres of bamboo is saving 10 million acres of trees from being cut.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, just everything about what you're doing, it just makes sense. And
Well, thank you.
the stuff that's happening, where you said in the Philippines, they like you're like creating solutions for all of these situations.
Yeah, it's fascinating how it all fits
It's
together.
crazy how just this one
Yeah,
product or this one plant
yeah,
can do
yeah.
this. And if we just keep pushing forward with this, we're gonna see.
Mm,
I mean, I think it'll be I mean, just not even houses being built, but just all the things that people do now with bamboo and make with bamboo. That's pretty impressive too.
absolutely. Yeah, when I was a student, I studied brush painting in Taiwan, and the icon for the perfected human being is actually the bamboo plant.
Wow.
Yeah, they say because of the strength and flexibility, and yet the inner empty Buddha nature.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can end on that note, and I am gonna I'm gonna try to get you on our Eco Rotary docket too. I think we have you for November.
Wonderful.
Hopefully we can do it a Zoom option as well at that point. And that will be lots of fun because we'll have interaction with a whole bunch of people. And maybe after they listen to this podcast, they'll be able to actually meet you sort of in person, virtually.
Sure, sure,
Yeah.
virtually. Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be able to meet you sometime in person in
I look
Jetball
forward to
next
it.
time you come to
Absolutely.
Oahu. Like I want to take you out to lunch.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
well, anyhow, really quick before we close up, I just wanted to give you some ways that you can either connect with David or learn more about his products and services that he offers. So you can go on to, I have them here, which is Facebook. It's at Bamboo Living. Or you can also check out their Facebook for the Rizome Bamboo. So at Rizome Bamboo is also another option. If you're on Instagram, it's at Bamboo Living as well. And for the websites, they have bambooliving.com and it's actually Rhizome Co, right? .com.
That's right.
No,
Yeah, Rizome Co. Yeah.
RIZOMECO.com, where you can learn more about this and learn more about bamboo. Actually, I kind of learned a lot by checking it out before this podcast.
Thank you.
Did you want to share an email that someone can reach you?
Sure. Yeah, they can reach me at david@bambooliving.com. And then also David at rhizomeco.com. So I've got both those emails.
Yeah, so I'm sure if you want to reach out to him, you can shoot him an email. Other than that, I think this wraps up things, and that's all I got. Thank you so much, David, for joining us.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for all the good work you're doing. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. You too. Thank you all for
Thank you.
listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast at www.smartlivinghi.org. Also follow us on Instagram at smart_living_Hawaii and like us on Facebook. Until next time, live smart. Mahalo.